All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. One of the things that I keeps happening, I think, is over the years of doing the show, because I've been doing it for so long, is there's a lot of recycling of guests, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's in the time since I started the show, which has been about a decade now, there's a lot of people who kind of cycle through a lot of different bands, and it's kind of cool because you get to sort of hear progressions of projects and also just progressions of people's different work in different bands, and so often I find that I'm getting recurring guests, maybe 2, 3, 5 years after they were initially on the show, and then maybe twice or three or four times with different bands. And I think that that's kind of the case here, which is cool though. I mean, it's always nice to sort of hear how people's work develops with different people and over different projects. And I think that the best way to start this off is if the two of you want to introduce yourselves and the band, and maybe just give a bit of background about what it is you do as musicians.
For sure. So I'm Alex, play in Hallfield Community Home, and play guitar. And I think, yeah, like you mentioned, we've been on a couple of times with other projects. I think the last time was an in-person one before the world blew up there.
It
So I
was
think this
one
is
of the
our
last.
first
I think
one.
it might have been one of the last in-person ones I
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
and
in a
suddenly it
Starbucks or
just,
something.
yeah, we were at a bookstore, I think, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is the way of the future. But yeah, so you've been on a handful of times, talking about different bands, Elder Abuse and Nice Cops, and that may have been it. I'm not sure, but
Might have
yeah.
been it. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah.
Yeah, and my name is Sebastian. I play drums with Hallfield, and yeah, last time would have been with Nice Cops.
So this is kind of one of the things that I was saying. It keeps happening. I mean, the music scene is so incestuous, and everyone plays in each other's bands, and it kind of you cycle through, right? Especially within certain scenes, it seems like there's a lot of the same people kind of turning up in each other's bands, and each band, the sound is slightly tweaked, and it changes a little bit as the lineups kind of morph. But I think that in both of your cases, people are familiar with your other projects. What makes this different? I mean, sonically, what makes this a different type of band than the ones people might be more familiar with you as being members of?
So I think like the reason why I guess maybe our group is so incestuous or however you wanted to call it.
I just like that word. It works well with
Yeah.
music. Yeah, yeah.
I think, more than anything, like Sabby and I just vibed as musicians, I play guitar, he plays drums. So it kind of works out that way. And then I think maybe a lot of musicians kind of went through this, but when, the lockdown, shutdown, whatever you want to call it happens, we were kind of forced to get creative in different ways. And so Sabby and I continue to jam together. We're here in our practice space right now, and we would try to meet here, whatever, once a week, as much as we could during that time. And so it just kind of developed into him and I experimenting, trying to write new stuff. And I think it's always going to have sound, whatever, punkish, punk rockish. I mean, I play guitar, it's kind of going to happen. But I like to think that we're trying to really drive in some pop influences and trying to have, while we write the songs with guitar, try to bring in other things like keys, synths, just trying to, or getting creative and bringing in other minds as well.
Was that pop stuff always there, kind of in the background of the other bands you were in? Because I mean, I feel like some of your other projects certainly have pop elements, but maybe not as much to the forefront, or not as strong.
Yeah, 100%. Like I guess like pop punk would be like a word to describe like some of my other projects, older projects. And so yeah, the pop has always been there. But maybe, in younger years shying away from that as much, or not wanting, trying to seem more aggressive or writing stuff that's more aggressive, not intentionally or unintentionally. But now just like, yeah, really trying to make our own version of what we think is like sugary and sweet, and but just still writing what we like to write.
Well, I don't want to dwell on the pandemic because I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sure you're sick of talking
Yeah.
about it. But just one thing I wanted to ask about that is, do you think that kind of experience everyone went through, where the world was shut down for however long it was shut down? Do you think that's kind of enabled people to feel more confident about maybe doing styles of music or experimenting with different kinds of art or different kinds of projects that maybe aren't what people expect? I mean, like, do you feel like you had the freedom to work on poppier stuff and maybe explore some of those other elements because you weren't playing shows with other bands, and because that whole universe that you were a regular part of was kind of on pause?
Yeah, 100%. Like that's it right there. I mean, we were so accustomed to writing a certain way, and I credit Sabby to just kind of like I would always come with whatever riffs or skeletons of songs or whatever to practice. And he really challenged me to be like, well, do we still want to do it like this, or do we want to try something else? And so it was just constant reworking of songs, or just trying things, throwing shit at the wall, right? And just seeing what sticks, and what's cool, and what we think is cool and interesting. And yeah, just going from there. I don't know if you want to add anything, but
Yeah, I think just the nature of the pandemic, we had to slow down and sit on songs for longer than maybe we typically would have in the past.
Sure.
And um yeah, that kind of gave us the opportunity to play around with structure and orchestration and instrumentation. And yeah, I think we just kind of made a conscious effort to go past our comfort zone, and I think a lot of it is just when you've been doing music for a decent chunk of your life and you're getting a bit older, you're feeling more comfortable to push yourself and try new things.
Had you always intended for this project to have a name of like an old folks home? Because every time I see it, I'm just thinking this is like some kind of seniors residence,
I think, yeah, that's the idea. So it's first of all, band names are like insanely impossible nowadays.
Sure.
Like, you're just in your own head or whatever, or it's already taken. The moment you find a good one, it's already taken. So just yeah, the Hallfield Community Home. It's essentially the idea is, it's Sabby and myself here, but as we're writing songs, it's not just the two of us. We're constantly writing with other people, whether it's one or two different people on songs. Like, we've written in this new project, we're probably getting close to 10, 12 songs now, and we've probably written and produced with a dozen people already.
Okay.
And so just trying to incorporate people to come live in our crazy little home for a little bit. It doesn't have to be a long time, but it's always a good time kind of deal. So that's the idea.
Well, yeah, it's memorable anyway, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it definitely
right
seems out of place on a punk bill. Maybe it's like, well, why are there some seniors playing here? But
well, I got to keep the elder abuse theme too, right?
of course, right? Yeah. Well, this being sort of a pandemic project, and now we're hopefully, done with that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Shows are happening again. Things are kind of getting back to normal, whatever normally means. But what is it like now that kind of you're not stuck, not that you were stuck doing this together only, but now that things have opened up and kind of you can do shows and shows are happening and things like that, how has that changed sort of the way that you see this project? Because is it daunting to sort of take this from just something you've been working on for all these months or years even, and suddenly now you have to kind of put it out in front of people and show it to someone other than yourselves?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, that's kind of a part of this. I mean, it's not I always class or put being in a band or in a music project into three categories. There's writing and jamming, there's the recording process, and then there's the playing live gigs. And yeah, for the longest time we haven't done any live gigs, and yeah, getting that itch again and trying to do it. So it's a matter of trying to put a band together and jam with some guys. So we do have a show coming up May 12th, and we'll have a band together for that. And it's been fun working with other guys, seeing what they bring. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking, to answer your question. Like, it's it's been a while since we got on stage together and played, and especially stuff we wrote, and to play it for the first time and stuff.
Yeah. So is this the first show coming up on May 12th?
As a full band, yeah, I've played a couple solo gigs.
Okay.
But as a full band, this will be our first one. Yep.
So is the idea then with this to make that the band itself, or is it still just going to be the two of you as sort of the main drivers behind this, and then whoever you can get for different shows or different events?
So the idea is we got some new songs coming out with a group. We recorded them with this group of guys, our friends Nick and Sean. And so the idea is we're gonna go play this gig with them and play these songs. And then as we write and record new stuff with different people, the next show you might see us with a new group and then play different songs. And then maybe you might see us in the fall and we'll play back again with that old group and play another group of songs. So it's just going to be a continuous cyclage of members.
Can these songs work with just the two of you? Like, if you had to play a show tomorrow and it was just as a duo, can you pull them off? I mean, you've been working on them and writing them in this kind of two-person formation?
Short answer, like, yes, I'm sure we definitely could. But I think the songs would go much better just like with more people for sure. But yeah, I'm sure we could whip something up at a little coffee shop, or Sabby would could get on one of those little drum things and
Yeah,
play.
and a lot of backing tracks maybe
Yeah.
to
Well, I guess
Yeah.
part of the reason I ask that too is like, I mean, when you're recording these songs, like you said, you're working with your friends who play the other instruments and sort of fill in those gaps. But how much of it, when you're recording these, when it was just the two of you putting these songs together, how much of that was overdubbed? I mean, was it a lot of it? Were you recording demos and things that involved a lot of uh, both of you playing multiple instruments and things like that, or was it really stripped down when you were working on the songs put together?
No, exactly that. It was demos and putting together 8 guitar tracks on one demo just to see what sounds good. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but I would record a demo, send it to Savvy. He would add something, play drums, send it back to me. I would play something on it, and we would just kind of mold it. And it would, as we passed it back and forth, it would shape into something. And then if we needed, if it was missing something, or if we thought it was missing something, there were plenty of people that we called and asked if they wanted to come. So off the top of my head, our friend DJ Sangalang came and played some bass and did some vocals. Our friend Shane Barron played some keys on it. Rory did some slide guitars on one song. So yeah, there's a mix of stuff all over the place on this stuff.
How much did the composition of the songs change once you added those other people on there and sort of saw what they brought to it? Did that create any fundamental changes in the way the songs were structured, or the way you kind of decided to play them?
yeah, I think like this is probably the most prepared we've been in terms of recording songs, and that so much time was spent hashing them out, um, just back and forth between us. But yeah, anytime you bring other people in, the the possibilities open up quite a bit. And I think we're again at the point where maybe the egos aren't as big anymore, and you're more open to suggestions and shifting ideas. And I think that lended itself to making better songs at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Does
it
it,
really honestly, it like really boils down to just like playing music with a group of people is sweet, and like doing it is like the most fun. And so like trying to get that in any capacity we can get and include other people um is the way we want to do it. I mean, like, it's just like the fun thing to do, I guess. Yeah.
makes total sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does part of that kind of comfort level with letting other people's influence your songs and letting them kind of change as they grow, is that part of that come with just kind of experience and age and just having done this for so long and sort of like you said about the egos, right? I mean, like, it's, you can kind of you're in a place, I guess, now where maybe you can let that stuff slide and say, like, wait, I am interested in hearing what happens when this gets added or when this person injects sort of their own views.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think 10 years ago, writing whatever my first punk songs, if somebody interjected and said, I think we should try to do this in the bridge, I think I would get so, I'd be so sensitive about it, be like, oh my God, they hate my song. Like, ugh. And now it's just like, it's so welcomed. If I knew how to write a hit song, I would have done it already. So
Yeah.
the fact that other people have ideas and care enough to actually interject and want to add things and say, hey, I think it'd be cool if we tried this, is so welcomed. Like, it's just like, to have other people that care and want to add to it is cool.
What's the eventual plan with this? I mean, you've been recording, you have show coming up. I'm assuming there's a release planned for the relatively
Yep.
near future.
Yep. Yep. So the plan, we just want to continuously put out songs, put out music, and write and record. Like, I think that's where our passion is, and what we like doing as musicians is writing and recording new music. And then every once in a while, we're definitely going to get the itch to play shows, to go do that. So we've got couple gigs booked in Winnipeg. We've got one out in Toronto in the summer that we booked. So we're just going to try to play around, use our connections that we've made in the past, and just try to go have fun and do cool things. And we're not going to get in a van and tour for 3 weeks anytime soon. But to do fun shows, record music, meet new people, fly around, do odd fly out shows or weekend warrior type stuff. Definitely into doing that. As far as the release goes, yeah, I would just expect to see something from us every couple months for sure. Like we're gonna continuously put up music.
Well, that's sort of what you've been doing already, right? Is just you're just releasing one song at a time, sort of over the last little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of uh remove some of the pressure. I find, like, with the fact that we're just bringing new people in, makes it a bit less daunting to bring someone in with the idea to record a full length album.
Yeah.
If we can set a goal to record a couple songs, write and record a few songs, yeah, it eases some of that pressure, and I think it just prevents the hang-ups, and yeah, allows us to keep doing our thing without too many delays.
Well, and
Like the
you can dictate the pace then too, right? I mean, there's not like sort of a hard deadline where this needs to be finished. You can just, oh, here's a song, here's another song, here's a song next week, here's a song next month, whatever you want to do, right?
100%.
So what's the best way at this point for people to hear this stuff? I mean, I know we're in this horrible dystopian future where no one listens to music the same way anymore. There's like 600,000 ways you can find music. There's Bandcamp, there's the streaming services, there's people releasing stuff in like 12 different formats physically. What's the best way if someone's hearing about you for the first time on this show to find your music at this point in our horrible future?
Yeah. So obviously, like Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple, it's all on there. But I really think, like, for what this project is, like, if you want to experience, this project or whatever, however I want to say that, come see us live, because it's going to be different every time, and we're going to play, the same songs that we put out, but with one group it's going to sound different, and then with another one it's going to sound different, and that's fully intentional. And so each time you come see the band, you might get a different experience. Yeah, we would want to keep that element as well.
Well, and kind of tied into that, I mean, the good thing about this being a podcast is someone could hear it the day it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now. And by then, who knows what you have released, who knows where you're playing shows. What's the best way to kind of keep up on what you're doing as far as upcoming shows and upcoming releases and all that stuff?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram. That's probably the main one that we use. So Hallfield Community Home on Instagram. So we'll be posting all of our shows, things there. And then, yeah, just follow us on Spotify. We'll keep putting the stuff out there for sure.
Is this I mean, this may be not something you can answer now, but just because it's the two of you and because you've kind of been, slowly working at this over the last little while, is this one of those projects you foresee being able to last, regardless of whether you're playing shows? Like, will the two of you, do you think, still be making music? I know it's hard to predict, but years down the line, as a duo, regardless of whether you're playing shows or other bands you might be in, like, does that seem like this kind of partnership?
I hope so. I mean, like, I like them. Yeah, like I truly think, like, we vibe pretty well. We both want to get the same thing out of this, just to do something creatively, to have an outlet, but, like, yeah, spend our time well, have a good time. We like similar things. It's fun. Yeah. I think we're going to continue to make music in this capacity for the next little while for sure.
Do you both agree with that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it takes the pressure out of being in a full band too, when you can, yeah, kind of, it's almost set up these micro bands that can exist for 6 months or, for a specific timeline, and then when life gets in the way or people move on to other projects, that can happen without feeling like we need to make a huge announcement that the band is breaking up or anything like that. I think it's just, yeah, allows for just a more natural band experience in your 30s.
Well, certainly.
I think you picked the right time to do this too, with the way the world is post-pandemic, with people are trying new things like we talked about before, and you can release stuff on the internet now. I mean, you have been able to for a few years now, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's possible to do something at your own pace and without necessarily touring in a van, like you said, for 3 weeks at a time. And you kind of picked a good spot to do a project like this.
Yeah, right on. I think so too.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's just over the years playing in the scene too, you meet a lot of people where it's, maybe you're not necessarily up for starting a full project with them, but pull people in for a song or two that in a combination that maybe you haven't worked with before. It allows for some cool opportunities and some cool songs.
And like real quick, like that's kind of how it started too. Is like we were really wanting to like, I think, toying with the idea of like, do we wanted to do a band or like be in a band of some capacity, and then we were writing some songs, and I ran into a friend at a bar, and we were working on this demo, and he just asked what we were up to, and I said I had this demo, but I was struggling with some lyrics, and he said send it my way, and so it's our friend Nick from the band Locator, and he just said send it my way, and we'll see what I can do. And literally the next day, he had sent me some lyrics on this demo that Sabby and I had, and then we talked about it. We're like, okay, I think this is cool. Kind of pick one person here, one person here, one person here, and so, really excited about it.
And to bring this all back to what we talked about right at the beginning, I mean, that incestuousness of the local music scene, that is a huge help because you have all these connections now, right? Over the years of being in bands, you've worked closely with, a half dozen people here, 5-6 people here. And that's going to give you like, to use a really outdated term, a really good Rolodex of local artists to call up when you need someone to play guitar or play bass or whatever on your recordings.
Yeah, and even just to like send a demo, run it by them. Wait, what do you think? Like that kind of stuff too. So yeah, it really comes in handy.
Awesome.
Yeah. On that note, I was going to say we're always open to new collaborations. So if anyone listens to what we do and likes what we hear and wants to work on something, we're
holler.
Yeah, we're happy to. Our DMs are open.
Awesome.